Welcome to the Four Brewers Podcast. My name is John Holzer, and as always, I am joined by
Jason Harris
and Tim Mather.
And this week on the show, we're sticking with the summer sipper theme. We're drinking some Berliners and some Goza beers because it's really hot outside. I don't know about the rest of the country, but I know here in SoCal, it's like been, at least in the Inland Empire, over 100 degrees. I think LA's been kind of the same way for most days. And yeah, we're sticking to something that's kind of refreshing and palate quenching and just tasty overall. So we have nothing to announce. We have no new supporters on Patreon to talk about. We have no emails. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. So Jason, this was your idea, I think, for a theme this week. So we're going to kick it off with you, man.
I fucked up.
Why did you fuck up?
It turns out the style's not as popular as it used to be.
Really?
I don't know. I thought I'd find a whole bunch of them, but like, not really. Not a lot. There was not a lot of variety at the store.
It seems like the Goza beers were a trend. I mean, actually kind of like a long-lived trend that stuck around for quite a few years. And a lot of the hype breweries, I think, still brew Gozas, but it's just you get a Goza and it's got a lot of fruit in it, and the salt's more of like a garnish for the fruit beer that you're drinking.
Yeah. I couldn't even find like a German one at all. I was a little bummed. Couldn't find much. I actually cheated and I brought a beer that didn't have salt or tartness in it. A brewery Rukeller Hells. I really just got that as a palate cleanser because I was wishing I could get Hottenroth, but I cannot.
Yeah, Hottenroth. I think they still brew that, but they put that, I think, in the 375 milliliter bottles. It's still available though. I mean, it's as far as I know, I don't think they got rid of it. Hottenroth was probably the first Berliner Weiss I ever had, and likely it was probably the first beer I ever had at the brewery when I went to the brewery because I was so new to craft beer at the time, and this is like over 10 years ago, and you go to an unknown brewery, especially a place like the brewery, and it's like, well, what do I try? And the server's like, how about this beer? Berliner Weisses tend to be very low ABV, very approachable, a little bit tart, nothing too overwhelming, and totally crushable. And for this kind of weather, yeah, a low ABV Berliner is perfect.
100% agree with that.
I did get a little bit of a theme with mine, which is that a lot of mine are from kind of more classic, I guess what you would say, like your legacy breweries. So the first beer I have is from Avery, which I haven't had anything from Avery in a little while, but it's the El Goza.
Yeah, I've had that beer. It's great.
Yep, a Goza with limes and sea salt. It's got a cool skull with limes for eyes.
Do you think they want you to pronounce it El Goza or El Goze? Like Hey Jose, or I don't know. I can see it both ways.
I think they specifically list the pronunciation in the description. So,
do they?
To pronounce it right, yeah.
Okay, well then I guess
they would prefer you say it correctly.
Yeah,
get it right, John.
Yeah, it says goes like literally it's spelled phonetically in the description.
Good on them.
And so yeah, it looks kind of got that wheat beer vibe to it. It's cloudy.
Yeah, they don't give a lot of description about what's in the beer on Untapped, other than how to pronounce it, which is helpful. But it says it's a tart Goza with a zesty and salty disposition, and it's brightened by a tangy citrus twist. A beer for every day, if you don't speak Spanish.
To that point, it's been a while since I've had an Avery beer as well. Didn't make it out there to their brewery when I was in Denver a couple years ago, but I can't think of the last time I had an Avery.
Same. I mean, talk about breweries that I overlook when I see them on shelves. Like, no offense to Avery, but I just don't care. Like, there's so much good beer that's available locally to us that, yeah, they are definitely a shelf turd for me. Not that they make bad beer, because I think they're one of the best breweries in the country, but I mean, again, we're in a huge beer market here in SoCal, and it's difficult to compete if you're from out of state unless you're brewing something that's really extraordinary.
I think, yeah, the large regionals in general are going to have a problem with that, right? Which is like, why get something from a large regional when, from across the country, when you can buy something from a local brewery that's probably just as good?
Unless it's a Goza.
Yeah, apparently. This is actually really refreshing, though. It has the salinity there, but not in a way where it tastes salty. It gives it almost kind of a minerality, like a Perrier water, like a mineral character to it.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's like a hint of lime. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a zest.
Well, when they say it has a tart and zesty and salty disposition, that
there you go,
implying that it's got some kind of zest in there, like a
which
fruit
is
zest.
good because lime overpowers a beer really easily, and I think they balanced it pretty well. This is super drinkable. Like this is definitely would be a great like poolside sitting in the hot sun beer.
I wish I had a pool. Like Yvonne wants us to put a pool in our backyard. She's not bothering me. She asks me about it every year, and I'm like, dude, a pool. They start at like 40 grand.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can get one of those above ground things like well,
Walmart. You can buy one on Amazon, and she's suggesting that now. And I'm just like, well, technically you just can't put it on the ground. It's got to be on like a slab, and then I got to build a slab. And
what else are you doing, John?
I'm still working. It's not like I'm sitting at home twiddling my thumbs. Like if I wasn't working and I was getting paid, okay, let's put a concrete slab down and put a pool in. But no, it's money that I don't want to spend right now. I just wish the next house I buy is definitely going to have a pool, like coming with the house.
You don't have 50 grand just sitting around?
I wish I did. No, unfortunately.
Sell some of those early Black Tuesdays, and then you got pool money.
Yeah, I'll have 49 grand left to go at that point.
Exactly.
But yeah, I agree. Goza, it's inherently just a great style to sit by a pool because it's going to give you that thirst quench. Like you got the salt, it's going to hydrate you at the same time. It's dehydrating you because of the alcohol. So it
balances itself out nicely. My first one up here. So I love Berliners and Gozas. I kind of made it pretty clear that sour is usually in my wheelhouse, and I was happy because I had everything I needed already sitting in my fridge, which was helpful because I went on a sour buying spree a while back. So my first one up here is from Black Project.
Oh, sweet.
Tim coming in with the big gets.
With the whales, man.
There it is. This is Magic Lantern. It is, sorry, one sec, I was unprepared. This is a passion fruit guava blood orange. Now it's considered a sour fruited goza. So it's a little
sour fruited goza.
So I'm a little off. I'm not sticking exactly to the style, but you see it's a little clear, looking good.
Well, I mean, gozas are typically tart. Like, I mean, you're not gonna.
Yeah, the fruit is kind of comes to the territory at this point. Like, I don't think I could find a plain one in the whole freaking place.
I mean, I think goza is supposed to have a tart edge to it. Like, otherwise it's just a beer with salt. Yeah.
And this one's got that extremely tart. It's got a little bit of like, it's a little, I would say it's a little dated, but it definitely has that tart real get you right in the beginning. But the salt balances it out nicely.
When it comes to goza, I don't want anything super tart. I just want an edge. You know what I mean? Do you have to go, Tim?
Yeah, sorry, I'll be right back.
No problem. Go ahead. So Tim has to go do something real quick.
Well, I got more beer I can talk about.
Well, I want to save it when Tim's here. So
okay,
we're just gonna vamp for a while.
So I'm looking at kiddie pools.
I've looked at kiddie pools too, believe it or not.
Just literally right now because we're talking about it. When I was a kid, we actually had like the Cadillac of above ground pools. It was like 4 feet deep and like 24-foot circular. So it was a big pool.
Yeah.
And for kids, like it was deep enough that we could pretty much get fully submerged in it. And it was great. I used to jump off the roof into it.
Wow. That's brave considering, I mean, because you've got the walls, they're only so, strong. And I don't think it's built to have anything like over 100 pounds just plopped into it. You know what I mean?
This was more like, it wasn't like something you bought in a box at a store. It was still like a thing that people set up. So it was like metal. It was like sheet metal
Oh, okay.
that went all the way around the outside. And then it had like kind of a frame where like every like 6 feet, there was like kind of a metal bracing. And then there was a metal top that kind of kept everything all together. So it was pretty robust.
My parents had a built-in pool when we lived in Baldwin Park or West Covina. Either way, same thing. And I remember I loved that pool. I loved swimming in that pool. We had a slide and everything. And I got stung by a wasp in my butt in that pool. Like I did like a cannonball, and there was a wasp on the water. And I remember it's still very vivid in my memory. Like I go underwater, my ass is like in searing pain, and I just see bubbles in front of me because I'm yelling underwater, and so it's like these bubbles cascading above my or in front of my face. I get up and I'm just like I'm like holding my butt, running around and crying. It was very traumatic. And my neighbors were over. I had two there were sisters that would always come over and hang out with me. And yeah, it was pretty sad. I stayed in the pool because like the cold water helped my butt feel better. And that was my memory of that pool. And then my parents, when they lived in Fontana, they bought an above ground pool. I think it was like a maybe a 20-foot 20-foot diameter pool, maybe 15, I don't know. And it was 5 feet tall, I believe. And I was a teenager at that point, and I would go in there occasionally. It was nothing fantastic, but that pool was like all vinyl, and it had it wasn't PVC, but it was like hard plastic supports that was like the same thing every 6 feet or so. But you could like push in on the side of it with your finger because it was just super strong vinyl. It wasn't metal or anything. So
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of when you said the pool that you were jumping into, because I don't think I would jump into that pool that my parents had, because it would probably break somehow.
Yeah, no, we jumped into it like nonstop for like 10 years. It was great.
I saw on the wire. Go ahead.
For being like, lower middle class randos growing up from in the 80s and 90s, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I agree. I just saw this morning, actually, coincidentally, the Wirecutter did a story on how to make a stock tank pool, which apparently a stock tank is something that if you live in farm country, it's basically like a big metal tank. Think a big like metal like kiddie pool, basically. But I don't know exactly what it's for, like its intended purpose. I'm assuming it's for like if you have horses and stuff, it's like a big watering trough, or I don't know, you can use it for whatever. But the latest trend is taking these and repurposing them as like a kiddie pool for adults. And it looks interesting. I looked into it. I think Tractor Supply in Norco sells them, but they're like $380 for, I'm not sure about the size. I want to say it's like an 8-foot diameter stock tank, but it's only like 2 or 3 feet tall. And so it's meant for just like sitting in, like if you had a kiddie pool. And I'm like, well, that would look cool in like your, custom landscape backyard. Like, that's our novelty kiddie pool that cost us $1,000 after we, retrofitted it.
Yeah, I'm like, so like they're normally wet, just like literally you fill this with water so your fucking cows can come drink from it.
Right. That's what it looks like anyway. And in the Wirecutter article, they took some of those foam pool noodles and like cut them in half and put them around the edge, so that the top of it has like a soft edge. And I mean, it looks cool. That's something I would totally do I don't want to pay $400 for a stock tank, but it's made out of metal, so you can just throw it on the grass and who cares? But at the same time, just get like one of those, kiddie pools that are, I don't know, $50. And if you're desperate to hang out in some water in your backyard, it's cheaper. And if it breaks, then you only wasted $50.
You want to jump in and ban this Hera guy from Twitch?
Oh, yeah. Hang on.
Easy breezy.
Hope I can anyway. There he is. All right.
Rip.
Done deal.
R.I.P. in pieces.
I didn't even notice because I was so focused on this pool talk.
Just the living that pool life.
Oh yeah, he's not even saying. This is some kid.
Yeah, it seemed dumb.
So if you're just tuning in, Tim had to leave for 10 minutes or so for whatever reason. So we're just kind of hanging out. We were talking about pools.
At no point are they good ones. You know what's funny? I looked into, there was some show and it was always on my lunch break when I'm at work. And it was like, oh yeah, they do these like realistic outdoor pools. And it would be like, oh, the pool looks like a fucking beach. And it's like, I'm like, I wonder what it takes to be on that show. And they're like, if you want to apply to be on the show, first, you need to have an existing pool project with a budget of $100,000 to $200,000.
Yeah, they want some baller pools coming on that show.
And the show's not building you a pool. They are just like, we're going to film the build that you paid us to do.
Yeah.
Alex Watts blog asking if we're going to do British beers. Real talk, the British beer by the time it makes it here is kind of old and shit.
Yeah, I mean, we can. That's Alex. I've known Alex for a long time, by the way. He's a good friend of mine from the UK. I'm not excited to try British beers. Maybe if they were fresh, if Alex is going to bring some, yeah, okay, we'll do it in 2021. If that actually is still a thing that can happen in 2021 in the United States.
Honestly, the stuff that comes over here too tends to be like weird gimmicky shit, like the Iron Maiden beer or like the Monty Python beer, and then like the British macros, basically.
Yeah, like Kyle from the chat said, just go to Yorkshire Square or McLeod, and if you want to get your British beer fix, you can go there. Good to go.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like the places here making traditional British style beer, I enjoy, but most of them don't package.
Yeah,
they're on-prem kind of places, so we never really.
Yeah, McLeod does. McLeod does, but Yorkshire Square, I don't think they do. I don't even think they have plans to, because they never intended to be a packaging brewery in that sense, as far as I know. I mean, things can change, and if they want to go that route, I'm sure they can. But I know Andy Black is still pretty involved, even though he moved to Rhode Island with Yorkshire Square. And if he has any say in the matter, I don't think they'd be doing any kind of packaging of their beer, because it's all basically cask ale. And then they have, I don't know, maybe they have some others that aren't cask that are just regular CO2 beers, but I haven't been there in at least a couple years since they first opened, which sucks. The same with Monkish. It's not like I'm avoiding Yorkshire Square. They're in that part of the South Bay that's just...
It's really hard for us to get to from out here. Yeah, it's just a really, really long drive.
Wonder what Tim had to do.
Wow, they updated the formatting on this. It looks way nicer when you bring in comments now.
Yeah, it does.
I've had some beers from Magic Rock, and they were pretty good. I want to say they come to like the Firestone Invitational.
Yeah. We had the guys from Magic Rock on New Brew Thursday, actually. They were in San Diego, and we went to San Diego and did a show with them at Churchill's Pub. Nice guys.
Nice. Actually, I've only ever had one beer from them, and it was on topic. It was called a Salty Kiss, a sour fruited goza at the Shelton Brothers Fest back in 2014.
Nice.
That's a cool fest. Shame it didn't no business, so they're not coming back to LA. But
back when we did that show with Magic Rock, they were kind of one of those hype breweries coming out of the UK, and they had like the cool hype brewery labels, and like they were doing all their marketing correctly. And I forgot even what we had on the show. It's probably on YouTube somewhere, but no, is it on YouTube? Yeah, it's got to be on YouTube because everything's on YouTube that we did. So if you want to watch it, you can. I didn't really like the show. The guys, they were really tired and very drunk because I think we recorded the show at like 9:30 at night at Churchill's. And so they were just like done after a solid day of drinking in San Diego, and they weren't too enthusiastic to be on the show. So that's what I remember from the recording session. Steve had a tough time keeping them pumped up and talking and stuff. And it was just like, well, okay. Win some, you lose some. But Alex, if you're coming in 2021, yeah, bring whatever you think we'd drink, man. And if you're going to be in the Anaheim area, which I'm assuming he'll be, because it's probably for like VidCon or something, you should come over to my house and record a show with us and drink the beers in person.
Well, we'll never get to hang out in person again.
Well, I'm being optimistic. It sounds weird to say that, actually, to say, yeah, you can come over and drink beers with me, because like, oh.
The COVID hordes are going to be running the streets trying to shoot anybody they see with masks.
There you go.
If you don't have the virus, you're not one of us.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Alex was supposed to be in LA for VidCon this year, but obviously that was canceled. So,
man, VidCon is like a whole world that I like look at that and I know like 4 creators, and I was like, oh, I really like those 4 people that I know out of the like 90 that they list.
Yeah, you think without seeing the list, you assume like, oh, I'm sure I've heard of most of these people, and no, you haven't. It's just some of the most obscure people doing some obscure shit.
Josh Pesme wants to plug Steam Whistle Brewery Toronto real quick. They did a 2 to 4 variety pack of beer to replace for their failed festival, or their canceled festival, not failed.
That's cool.
Neat.
That's very harsh.
Yeah. Fucking failures. way to not do your festival, nerds.
All right, Tim's back. Can you hear us, Tim?
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No problem. So bring that back.
What did you move on to?
We were just talking about kiddie pools and high-end kiddie pools for adults that cost like $1,000, and doing cannonballs into above-ground pools and how that might be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And we also were speculating why you had to leave. And
shit.
You can go back and watch the live stream to see what we said.
Oh boy.
All right, so I'll bring it back. Okay, so my theme for this show, I wasn't really too hyped on doing gozas for the show. I don't mind the style. I think it's fine. They're usually, for the most part, like I said, light, crisp, refreshing beers. But as Jason said, it's kind of difficult to find a good variety and selection. And luckily at La Bodega, Kim, she sections off all of the gozas and like I'm not going to say all the sour beer, but like the sour beers that kind of fall in line with goza, like the fruited sours and the goza, and actually like the Mexican lagers are all on their own little door in the refrigerator, which is very convenient because they all have that common theme where it's like refreshing, drinkable. Lager is going to be, obviously not soured. It's not going to have salt in it, but it's a clean and refreshing summery beer when it's hot. Goza, you get the sour, you get the salt, and then, fruited sours, no salt generally, but you get the fruit. And so it was very easy to just look at that one door and see what I wanted. And there was some selection there, but I noticed that out of all of the breweries in that door, Mikkeller San Diego had the most gozas. And so I got all Mikkeller San Diego gozas because they had exactly 3. And I'm like, that's all I need for the show. So that's what I'm going to get. So all of mine are from Mikkeller San Diego. And the other thing with Mikkeller San Diego is you can pretty much count on their beers being fantastic. Like I have yet to have a bad beer. And if I have had a bad beer from Mikkeller San Diego, it's probably a matter of taste and not a matter of like recipe structure or them messing the beer up.
Unlike the Europe Mikkeller.
What's that?
Unlike the Europe Mikkeller.
Yeah,
where the quality is wildly variable.
Yeah, because Mikkeller, even the beer I had last week wasn't brewed at a Mikkeller brewery. I forgot where it was brewed, but it wasn't brewed at Mikkeller. And so you're still at the mercy of whatever breweries they're still brewing through to make their beers when it comes to the European stuff that gets imported to the United States. So yeah, it's kind of hit or miss with Mikkeller from overseas. But for San Diego, like I said, you can't really go wrong. So the first one I have is a beer called Guava Gang. This is a 5% alcohol by volume Goza style ale brewed with guava and sea salt. And I've been pretty, if you listen to the show, you know how I feel about guava. At first, when I first had guava beers, I hated them. I thought it was a stinky fruit. I don't know why anyone would put it in beer. And I continually force myself to have guava beers. And it's a fruit. It's a style, or it's a fruit that has been added to beers that's grown on me. And this beer is very refreshing.
I love guava in beer. Like, oh man, if I see guava in a beer, I'm like sold.
I'm kind of at that point. I don't want to say I love guava, but I definitely appreciate certain aspects of guava in beer, and I would definitely order like an IPA that was made with guava or some kind of, I don't know, guava thing. So that's the case with this beer. And the guava does come through pretty, it's focused on the guava, and it's got that guava stank that I always talk about. And it's still, it's a super dry, refreshing beer, and the salt dries it up even more. And it's super, super drinkable. Mikkeller SD, I think they're wizards with fruit in beer too. Like they really know what they're doing, and they've got a solid crew down there that's been there since their opening, since they took the spot over from AleSmith. And I think, it's a solid beer, really tasty.
I know I talked about that I had a bunch of legacy producers. Here's a brewery I don't go to very often at all. North Coast in
what?
Truly Northern California. And theirs is pretty cool. One, it comes in a clear bottle.
What? This is getting weirder and weirder.
I didn't even know North Coast made a beer.
It is a Cranberry Quince fruited beer. Quince is a weird fruit that looks like it's similar to a pear. They actually have a couple different ones, believe it or not, in this series that are similar with the clear packaging, whatever. But this one sounded the most interesting. And according to their label, it is spontaneously fermented. So I'm guessing that they, spontaneously soured seasonal Berliner Weiss. It's their fall seasonal.
The cranberry makes sense for that.
Here's hoping this is from this upcoming fall, and not the prior fall. But either way, we'll make it.
North Coast famous for Scrimshaw and Old Rasputin.
Yeah, Rasputin.
Rootin' tootin' Rasputin.
Rootin' tootin' Old Rasputin. Finest memory is talking to their rep at a festival and saying, "Hey, we think you should make a fruited Old Rasputin called Rootin' Tootin' Old Rasputin," and he just completely straight faced was like, "Yeah, okay."
Either didn't care or wasn't the first time he heard that. I don't know. I think it was the first time he heard it and didn't care.
How far into the festival were you when you did this?
I think it was like mid to end. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jason usually keeps his shit together at beer festivals. It's me that gets kind of rowdy, but yeah.
This is super good, you guys. It's a little bit tart as you'd expect from Berliner, but also has that acidic tartness from cranberry. There's like a sweet front that reminds me of the sweetness of a pear, which I'm guessing is the quince fruit. It's spelled like quince.
Yeah, Quince. And
but it's pronounced quince apparently.
Yeah.
I
was kind of questioning why they decided to put it in a clear bottle. I mean, usually when you put something in a clear bottle, you want to, showcase the color of the beverage that's in the bottle, obviously. And the bad thing with clear bottles in beer, as we all know, is the UV light tends to skunk the hops. And so after I thought about it, I'm like, well, this is probably a very low hopped beer, if not any hops. Like, I'm sure they add a couple for...
Yeah, but there's no perceivable hop character in this beer at all.
Right. When I first saw the bottle, I was thinking, oh, it's a cider, because that's kind of what it looked like until you mentioned exactly what it was. I mean, I knew obviously it wasn't, but that's kind of what the appearance is.
to be honest, it kind of tastes like a cider. The sweetness of the fruit with a little bit of tartness on the back. Like if you gave this to somebody who was like, I don't like beer and all I like is cider, they would like this beer, I think. Super good, actually, really interesting.
So how is like the fruitiness compared to the tartness? Like, is it more fruity
It tastes
than tart?
like it's a little mix of both, I think. But the tartness is really just kind of on the finish, really more like drinking like a cran apple juice.
Okay.
And but not super sweet. It's like you're getting the character of the fruit without getting a ton of sweetness in there, which is good. It's a fruited beer, but it still is beer flavored.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a beer flavored beer.
Yeah. No. I think this is really successful, actually. I remember having another version of this in the past and being kind of meh about it, but I really like this. This came out really good.
Yeah, North Coast, I think they fly under the radar quite a bit. Even like their anniversary Old Rasputin beers, the barrel aged ones, those tend to be really, really good. And I mean, you can get a barrel aged Old Rasputin for $10, $12 or something like that for I think it's a 500 ml bottle, or not, maybe a 22. I'm not sure. I have to look again, and they're really good. Like their barrel aged stuff is solid, but they're a brewery that people don't really talk about.
I think,
that's a good get.
Being an older brewery committed to brewing classic styles, it's just not what people talk about these days. People want the crazy pastry 5 adjuncts stout, or the like, oh yeah, it's a weird slushy fruit whatever. And North Coast really hasn't, like, they don't even have your like obligatory hazy IPA.
Yeah.
Like their lineup looks straight out of 2005.
So does their branding.
I mean, it is. They haven't changed in the time I've seen them.
One of the few legacy breweries that hasn't undergone some sort of a rebrand. But I had something. I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I would agree with you on like the idea there that they're still making the same good stuff that they've always made. Okay. So that reminds me, like, one of the reasons that I liked the Black is Beautiful that we had from Smog City a few shows back is that it just seemed so just straight up what you want from a stout. And I feel like that's what North Coast still kind of does with a lot of their stuff.
So they're as far like, because with the Black is Beautiful from God. So with the Black is Beautiful from Smog, there was no adjuncts that we could tell in that beer. It looked like it was pretty much just the recipe from what is it, Morning Souls or Weathered Souls. Weathered Souls. Yeah. And they just brewed it, and they did a really good job making like just a beer flavored stout, and that's all it really is. And I agree with you, Tim. North Coast, for good or for bad, they're sticking with their roots and saying, you know what, we're gonna make beer that's the beer we want to drink. And maybe at the brewery they have some like hype stuff that you can get at the tasting room. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they've done a hazy just to play around with it, because why not? But for the most part, North Coast is a brewery that's dependable, I think you could call them. They're not gonna put a product out on the mass market that is, I don't know, half-assed, I guess.
Yeah, and Old Rasputin was one of the early heavy beers that I had in my drinking time.
Yeah, it is a pretty big beer. That's when I think Old Rasputin, I think Cost Plus World Market, because that's the first place I saw it, and then Sean Paxton, the beer chef guy, because his Twitter, I think it might still be his Twitter profile picture for the longest time was like the dude doing the hand thing on his head on the Old Rasputin label. And and that beer turned out to be really good. Like, I never bought it back then when I saw it at Cost Plus World Market, because I didn't really drink beer back then, but that was also the same store I saw Arrogant Bastard. So it's like, what's this Arrogant Bastard beer? What's this Old Rasputin? All this weird beer. And turns out they're really good beers.
That is one of those beers that just doesn't hit me right. Like, everybody's like, classic. Could always drink Old Rasputin. Just never really enjoyed it. I think I've tried it on the show. I'm pretty sure I did it in a Going In Blind one day.
We had a barrel-aged version on the show too, and you didn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, just
That's a bummer.
Something about that beer is not my jam. I did appreciate that it was a recurring role in Silicon Valley, though.
Oh yeah, and like, dude was drinking it out of the bottle.
Yeah, like on
Not fucking
screen,
around.
Guilfoyle was constantly drinking an Old Rasputin. So
Yeah. And what was the other brewery they had stickers of? Was it
early on? They had a lot of
Ballast Point?
Ballast Point. Yeah. Before the buyout, and
Yeah.
then they low key just kind of stopped featuring him afterwards. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Tim, what are you drinking now?
So I moved on to Weiss. This is from Crane Brewing.
Okay, I'm assuming that's a Berliner made with some kind of tea.
Yes. So this is they call it a sour ale brewed with tea. Tap calls it a sour Berliner Weiss. Take your pick. It's in the same family. So this is a Berliner Weiss that is combined with Rooibos tea.
What is Rooibos tea? What is Rooibos tea? Is that a brand or a type of tea?
It's a well. See, I'm going by the Wikipedia says Rooibos. I can never remember how to do this. It's basically a.
How do you spell that?
Rooibos.
Okay, it's from a Rooibos plant.
Yeah, meaning red bush. Interesting.
Okay, red bush. Ooh, fire bush. I had to say it. I'm sorry.
We had to be 12 years old about this.
Yep. Sometimes it comes out. It's okay.
I'm trying to remember. There's a brewery that had one of the bigger guys, and they have they put out one of these every year, and I can't remember what it's called, and I'm blanking. But anyway, about this one.
According to Wikipedia, Rooibos tea has a similar flavor to hibiscus tea.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be flowery and kind of floral, I guess.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of sweetness to it. So overall, I will say overall, the aroma has like a very light sort of sweetness. It's not hitting me too nicely on the aroma, but as far as the flavor goes, it's got just a little bit of tartness, very well balanced with that sweetness that you'd expect kind of from the hibiscus family.
Do you get any floral character on the nose at all? Like,
yeah. No, I think there's a bit coming off. It's very subtle, at least on this guy.
Okay, good.
It's kind of like this odd sort of like tea sour flower sort of thing to me, at least.
That just does not sound good to me. That's not what I want.
My description probably not the best, but
no, it sounds right. Like, it sounds like that's what they were going for. It's just like, for me, I don't know, man. Tea and flowers in beer, I'm fine with it. Like, hibiscus is, I think, used mostly for coloring, and then you do get a little bit of the essence of the flower coming through, and I think that's okay. I can deal with that, depending on the application. But tea is something that, I don't know. I mean, I think last week I had a tea beer that I talked about. It wasn't on the show, but the tea Cursion from Bottle Logic. I mean, that came off super fruity, but you could still tell there was an essence of tea. And I don't like tea. That's where I'm coming from. So if I liked tea, then tea beers would probably be awesome. Like, especially Tea Logic. Like, that would be right up my alley because you get the tea aspects and also the fruit aspects from it. So
yeah, I'd say this so far, as far as the flavor goes, like, it's a really nice mix of like the I'm kind of thinking like Sour Patch Kids. Like, first they're sour, then they're sweet. So you got like the little bit of like the tang that you expect from like a Berliner, and then it just mellows right out into like a nice sweetness. So overall, it doesn't make my salivary glands go crazy, and it's really enjoyable.
yeah, I think when you're when you're making a Goza, you don't want to go for like this big tart character on it because that's not what it's about. So. As far as my next beer goes, again, I have another one from Mikkeller SD, and this is called Passion Pool. And again, this is a Goza style ale. This one's made with passion fruit and sea salt. So we're ticking all the boxes here for the hype fruits. We've got the guava fruit beer and the passion fruit beer, and
I had the
get that hype fruit. Hype fruit.
And I do a lot of breweries tend to put passion fruit and guava in beers. Am I thinking that correctly?
Yeah, I
That's
feel
a
like
thing.
that tends to be.
Yeah, the pog juice thing, right?
There
Mhm.
you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course. And so it's nice to see these separated because you can get that. I would assume it's the same base beer. Yeah, this is also 5%. So it's probably the same base beer. This is me assuming, by the way. And completely different character on it. Like I talked about a few shows ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 shows ago, how I actually had a passion fruit for the first time. And it had all of these different characteristics that I described on the show. And that's what I'm getting in this beer. Like it comes off a bit funky on the nose, not like guava comes off, where it comes off like stinky and kind of farty. But this comes off like with that tropical funk kind of mango-ish character on the nose. And it has a little bit of like a perceived sweeter finish. Like I can taste like more of a candy finish on it. It still finishes super dry and has, I think the same tart bite and salt bite on it, but just completely different beer from the guava.
Is that one's classified as it goes? I think you said all of yours are.
Yeah, these are all on the label. They call them Goza style ales.
That's awesome.
Oh, this one might be a little bit more tart. I don't know. It could be the passion fruit. Actually, they have the recipes on the cans. Yeah, it looks like they're the same thing, except for the fruit.
It sounds like a really good combination. I will say, like, I remember when I first had a Goza and thinking like, oh, what's with this saltiness? And then like really kind of learning how it helped balance everything out. And I've been a big fan ever since.
So my next one is another kind of old school brand. It's AleSmith. And seemed weird for them to be in this category. This beer is called Forge Berry. So I was like, well, let's see what AleSmith has to do. And they've got something that is purple, like bright red purple colored.
It kind of looks like a plum to me, like plum skin.
Yeah, if you've got light coming through the back instead of coming through the front, it is very red. Apparently it's got raspberry in it. They advertise it as being fairly light. It's 120 calories on the can.
That's pretty light, yeah.
4.9% alcohol. It smells like raspberries. Like just straight up smells like raspberries.
Well, that's good since they added raspberries to it. I'm glad they're standing out.
Oh, that's actually surprisingly good. I expected it to be way more sweet and cloying, and it's actually pretty dry. It kind of has that tannic feeling on your palate where you're just kind of like,
yeah,
like it's smacky, as we would say,
like tongue coating kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's a cool experience to drink. I don't know if you could drink a lot of it because it feels like that would, like, it's already like kind of like, okay, all right. It's not super sour. It's just very tannic.
I feel like, I mean, with Goza, you want to get away from those tannins because those tend to fatigue your palate. Depending, I mean, if you're drinking something that's higher alcohol with a lot of tannins, that's one thing because you're probably going to stretch that out over time. And depending on the style, but for like a Goza or a Berliner, I mean, tannins, I would think, are unwelcomed. You want to avoid those as much as possible.
I really like the flavor. I like that it's a little bit drier, even though it's got kind of a fruity flavor. But yeah, it does make your tongue feel like sandpaper.
Really?
It's just like it really feels like it's.
So it comes off more gritty than tongue coating, or
no, it's like literally like it feels like it kind of dries your mouth out, where you're just like,
okay, like cranberry juice does.
Yeah.
Like okay, then that makes sense. Yeah, because if you just drink straight up cranberry juice, it's a bad experience. Like, yeah, it's full of tannins. Like, it is very, I don't know, dehydrating on your palate. Like it just sucks the moisture out. Yeah.
Is that why they don't make raspberry juice? Maybe cranberry, raspberry. Maybe they have the same properties. Yeah.
It's usually mixed with things.
Cran raspberry. Yeah. I don't know. Well, it doesn't sound like it's a bad beer. It's just the tannin thing kind of turns me off. That's all.
It makes it where you drink, a small amount and you're like, okay, I'm good.
It's a taster hero.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, like these two Mikkeller beers so far, like I finished the first one, and this other one, the Passion Pool, very good. Like I was not expecting to like these as much as I like them. These are really good, very drinkable.
Pop into my last one here. So pulling up my last one, this breaks my cycle of Berliner or Goes. This is actually considered they call it a Midwest fruit tart. I believe it is considered a fruit beer. So same sort of idea, sour, fruity. This is from Urban Artifact. It's Autocycle.
Okay.
It is, like I said, a Midwest fruit tart. They say it is brewed with Belton Cherry, which apparently is a new cherry variety. I was looking it up. It originates in Hungary and was introduced to the U.S. in the 1980s. Apparently, it adds a dark tart naturally high in cinnamic acid.
Cinnamic acid. I've never heard of cinnamic acid. Okay.
Unless somebody miswrote this. Let's see what that is.
Was this a Tavor pickup?
It was.
I knew.
Yeah, they have Urban Artifact on there quite a bit. We had a squeeze box from them on the show.
Yeah.
That, it was very fruity. I remember that.
I should probably point out, which I forgot some of the details here. They also put the pH on the side of the can here at 3.2 pH.
That's pretty low. Yeah.
And it is 10%.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So
10% alcohol by volume?
We're just going to stick to a little bit here.
Holy moly.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it looks nice. Very dark red, almost pink.
It has a very sweet. It has a not medicinal, but like a nice sort of sweet cherry aroma. Not overwhelming or in your face. It's actually very subtle. It's very nice.
Yeah, it being 10%, that's going against everything Goes is about, which is low alcohol.
I realize that.
Refreshing.
Yeah, that's why. That's why it's the last one, and why I decided to just go with it, because I needed to clear some things out.
It's in the same vein. It's fruited. It's it's fruited.
It's fruited. It's supposedly sour.
How sour is it?
Not very. I can see why this could be a danger. It doesn't have a huge punch of flavor. That also could be because I picked it up on Tavor a little while back, so maybe it's mellowed out. But overall, it's very smooth. It's kind of like there's something that I can relate it to, like a kind of like a cherry vitamin water is where I'm going with it. Like you got like a nice cherry flavor, but it's not overwhelming. It's not super tart. Again, I could blame that on the age of the can. But overall, it's smooth.
Nice.
Teaser, my next beer is capped and corked.
Oh, Captain Cork.
So eagle-eyed viewers can watch me fuck with this for the next 5 minutes while Tim keeps talking.
Oh man, all the pressure's on there.
It's all Tim.
I'll just read the wiki page about this cherry. It's very interesting.
In 1986, the Belton Cherry.
So apparently it's a Morello type cherry with dark burgundy color throughout both skin and flesh. Has a sweet tart flavor. Oh, okay, there we go. That's where I'm getting. Like a sweet tart, but less on the tart, more on the sweet.
Less on the tart, more on the sweet.
Now yours, John, I'm pretty jealous of all of those. The passion fruit, like guava, goza. That's just amazing. Now, if I was less lazy, I would have gone looking, but I wanted to try and shop the fridge.
Well, the last beer I have, speaking of what you said, Tim, good job, Jason. He got the cork out in one piece. He got the cap off. I'm going to introduce my beer before we get to Jason's beer. This is the last beer I have from Mikkeller and Mikkeller SD. This is Moons of Saturn. Ooh. This is a Berliner Weiss style ale brewed with orange peel, lime peel, key lime, passion fruit, and crystallized ginger. This one's 7% alcohol, so still keeping in theme with the Goza / Berliner thing that we're doing. Perfect, right? I got 2 Gozas and 1 Berliner that's a little bit higher, and I think that works out great. So
that can's really cool.
You got your bottle open successfully.
I did. I've poured
Proud of you,
beer.
brother.
I didn't get any chunks. It was. I was way older than I should have been when I learned that the bottle opener that's like T-shaped, that you use it as a lever, like
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Same.
not until like 2 years ago.
There's 2 steps on it too. There's like the initial pull, and then you like step it down and pull it more, and there you go.
Yeah, I was like way older than I should have been when I learned that.
I learned that from Dr. Bill. I didn't know that either until I watched him do it. I'm like, that's what that's
I would just
for?
screw it in and just yank the fucking cork out like a goddamn plebe. So my last beer is from Libertine, which is a brewery in Morro Bay, and then there are other breweries in, I think, San Luis Obispo, their main production facility. Their pub in Morro Bay is right on the water. Beautiful view of Morro Rock. Super cool spot. One of my favorite spots every time I'm up the Central Coast. So I remember going in there and I think with you, John, on the way home from Firestone one year.
Yeah.
And it was just like they put AC/DC's Who Made Who on vinyl, and you're just listening to vinyl, looking at the beach. It's summer, drinking beer. Super fucking cool spot. Good memory.
It sucked that we were on the way home because it was like because we had to leave. And so it's a place that I would want to be staying in Morro Bay or in the surrounding area and hang out there for hours and just drink beer and chill and listen to music. Cause it's got that vibe where it's very, again, if you like classic rock and roll in general, it's not like it's all classic rock, but it's a lot of vinyl, great view, great vibe inside the place. Literally shit all over the walls, like art and money and whatnot. Like I think they have dollar bills stapled to the ceiling or something, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, like people decorate them and they put them up.
Yeah. That's kind of the vibe. I haven't been there, but that's the vibe that I get from a lot of their branding. It's just like that sort of rock, classic rock, alt sort of feel.
Yeah.
So they call this the Pacific Ocean Blue Goza. Barrel-aged wild ale with locally sourced Pacific Ocean seawater.
Interesting.
No fruit, just ocean water.
Huh.
So I thought that was really interesting, and that would be a fun beer to try.
We had Libertine on the show a while ago, and I think we were kind of disappointed by how tart their beers were. Like they were just tongue-strippingly tart and kind of all over the place. Like it just seemed like I remember them being like a mess of a show. Not no offense to Libertine, but the beers that we were able to pick up here locally in SoCal.
Yeah, I think this beer is pretty sour. It's definitely the most sour beer of the ones I've had today. The defining characteristic of this beer is the sourness. Not a ton of salinity coming in on it. Which, considering that's like the starring feature, I would expect that to come through.
Yeah, it's made with like the Pacific Ocean. Like, come on. It's not as salty as the Atlantic. So
I feel like if you grew up in Southern California or at least spent time here, you've swallowed a bit of that ocean already anyway.
Yeah, I know what the Pacific tastes like, and this does not taste like the Pacific.
Exactly.
You, sir, are not the Pacific Ocean. I have tasted the Pacific Ocean.
Reminds me of childhood.
Yeah, it's
so not too salty, a little too tart. No fruit added, so
no, it's just a simple beer, and I was expecting something a little bit more, honestly, more along the lines of the Avery beer.
Yeah,
that was a little bit more like where the salinity was kind of the main character, and it's more of a background player for just acid. Again, not super acidic, but for a beer this simple, it's a little bit challenging. Like it's already kind of like you can feel I can feel on the palate a little bit of lingering kind of a tingle from the acid.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like Libertine, at least the Libertine that we had on the show back in the day, and it's still something I don't want to experience. I am not a big sour fan. Like I used to I was okay with it back in the day, but now nope, I want nothing to do with it. It's too much.
Got a pretty cool label of a guy surfing with wearing a shark's head as a helmet.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, they still have that traditional like Libertine L on there with the font they use. Like I don't know what that is.
That like Times New Roman looking shit.
very fancy. I wouldn't say it's Times New Roman.
Or like Old English.
Yeah, it's more
there
like
you
the
go.
Old English style. Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to my beer, this
Yeah, go ahead.
Moons of Saturn from Mikkeller. Again, this is made with orange peel, lime peel, key lime, passion fruit, and crystallized ginger. The first thing I noticed about this beer, there is no head. Like you pour it and it fizzes, and it just there's nothing there. Like it looks like a flat beer almost,
Oh,
which
wow.
sucks. I don't like looking at beers like this because seeing a head makes it look more appealing and gives you that perception that it has carbonation in it. But this is carbonated just fine. It's just that the head burns off really quick.
It looks
And the
very
key lime-
still in there.
What's that?
It looked very still in there.
Exactly. That's my point. Like you look at a beer with no head and you assume it's still. But it's not still. It's carbonated just fine. The key lime in this stands out very, very well. This has kind of like almost like a pie character to it with the mouthfeel. It's not as dry as the first two beers. Those were Gozas. This is a Berliner. So it does have more of like a malt presence happening. And it kind of comes off like a key lime pie kind of beer without them calling it a key lime pie beer. Like it's still, I think, true to its roots as a Berliner. Like it's more tart than the first two beers, the two Gozas I had, but it's not overwhelming. And the fruit that they used in this beer and the zest, I think it was perfectly balanced. Like it comes off very nicely. Okay, hang on. God damn it.
It's just the stuff that gets put in there.
Come on, dude.
It's got a very body feel.
And he called us cunts. Well, fuck you. Soy boys? I'm the only soy boy here, god damn it. Lost my train of thought.
Key lime pie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't really pick out any of the ingredients. Again, orange peel, lime peel, key lime, passion fruit, and the crystallized ginger. You'd think the crystallized ginger would add like kind of like a spicy character to it, and maybe it does. Maybe it's like a kind of a brown sugary kind of I don't know. What's like when you
have you had candied ginger before?
Maybe not. No,
I've had pieces of candied ginger like with cocktails where they take like this slice of like candied ginger and it's covered in sugar and they give it one on the side with like a cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like a sweet sort of like you're saying, kind of like a little bit of a spice note. So I'm not sure. That's interesting to hear. I would expect it to play some sort of a role.
I met Candy Ginger in Vegas, but I don't think that was her real name.
Like I said, it does have kind of like a brown sugary kind of edge to it. It's not anything that's like that I can feel in my throat, like that's actual spice. But I know what ginger does taste like, and it does have kind of like an effervescent spice thing, like in your nose kind of thing that you get from like, hot sauce or peppers or something like that. And this doesn't really have that. Again, I think everything in this beer has been thoroughly thought out and it's well balanced, and it works very well in this beer. It's very much a dessert beer without being cloying and heavy.
So I just made a crazy discovery. I tried the Libertine beer, which is super acidic, back to back with the Avery beer. And the Avery beer is like the antidote to it. Like, when you have hot sauce and then you drink like milk and it helps, you're like, man, I just feel like there's nothing but acid here. And then I drink the like very salty Goza and it's like, oh, it cleared it. It neutralized the acid and now it is back to normal again.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's the antidote to the other beer.
So if you're going to drink Libertine beer, drink Avery beer as the antidote.
As a chaser, yeah. It's a saw challenge. Just like you're dying of thirst and in front of you is nothing but one Libertine beer. The acid will burn through your esophagus, but otherwise you will die. God.
Well, it sounds like Libertine's still keeping up their hijinks with their beers being too sour.
I mean, it's like when we talked to Joe last week, though. He was just like, the more sour, the better.
Yeah, maybe we're the ones that
The
beer's not made for. Yeah,
there's a market for it for sure.
I'd have to go back through my history. I don't specifically remember having a Libertine at any point. I feel like I must have. It's like with how many things that I've tried. But yeah, like I'm with Joe on that in terms of like the sour and the acid. I'm here for it. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, typically their beers are, I think they come in 750s, if I remember correctly.
Honestly, that's usually
This is a 375.
Ooh, okay, I do that because usually I've seen them in 750s, and I'm put off by anything bigger than maybe a 16-ounce can, or if I'm feeling rowdy, a 20 or a bomber.
I think like the rest of the industry, they've kind of downsized their giant bottles.
Yeah, I mean, and why not? I'm sure it costs more to spread the beer out like amongst those like bottles that are literally half the size. But again, we've talked about this a lot. I don't want to have to buy a 750 of a beer, like in any style.
It's great if you have 5 friends over, but not so much if it's like you and your significant other, or just you.
Yeah, it's just me. Like
just you right now.
My significant other does not drink at all, so it's all on me. I have to bear the burden. So,
You're drinking for 2.
Overall, I'm really happy with these. I'm drinking. It just hit me. Overall, I'm really happy with these beers that I picked up from Mikkeller San Diego. I don't mean to like gush on Mikkeller San Diego, but dude, everything they make when it comes to their pastry stouts, their hazies, their actual just West Coast IPA. When I see it, like I have no hesitations when thinking to buy it. Like it's the same with like Pizza Port. Pizza Port beers, no matter what it is, maybe once in a while it's something I don't like because I don't like the way it tastes. It's not quite made for me. But for the most part, like Mikkeller San Diego is they're just hitting, dude. Like they make great beer. Like this is fantastic. I'm really happy about these.
Speaking of Pizza Port, I picked up the Beechwood Pizza Port collab today, and I'm pretty excited to try it.
Which one? Total Wine?
Sorry.
Yeah. It's
Damn, I gotta go to Total Wine.
They go everywhere. Like everywhere has it.
I'm not up on the latest news. Fill me in on what is it?
Beechwood and Pizza Port collaborated on an IPA. That's all I know, and that's all I need to know.
It's probably the best IPA in the world. It's got to be, right? I mean, Pizza Port makes the best IPA in the world, and Beechwood makes the best IPA in the world, so it's going to be the best IPA in the world.
It might be so good that it like creates a miniature black hole.
Yeah, what if Beechwood, Pizza Port, and Russian River did an IPA? Like, what the fuck? It's going to happen at one point. I guarantee it. It's got to happen at one point.
I mean, if Russian River can collab with Karl Strauss, they can collab with anybody.
Where would you want that beer brewed? Like, would you want it brewed at Beechwood, at Mikkeller, or at Russian River? Because each brewery has their own, like, terroir, for lack of a better word.
That's a really good question.
I think I'd want that beer brewed at Russian River. Because I think Beechwood and Pizza Port are very similar with how their beers come off. I mean, Pizza Port, I want to say I could identify a Pizza Port beer. Yeah, I think I could. Like, because they have this commonality with their IPAs. Beechwood is kind of all over the place, but still very much defined. And Russian River tastes like Russian River. So I don't know. I think I'd want Russian River to brew it.
Well, if this is too much on the technical side, I'd be curious to hear. Obviously, like with excuse me, with brewing equipment, you sanitize and you clean, and like I know there are different setups in terms of the devices and the way that things are hooked up and connected, but for the most part, like everything's sanitized and cleaned in between brewing. Counter to that, like you have, say, like a burger joint, right? You got like a mom and pop sort of burger joint, and the key there is that their grill is probably seasoned and been used for 20 years to make the same burgers, and that's what makes them unique. Does that sort of effect happen?
No, I'm talking more in lines of how Russian River would construct like a malt bill for a recipe and a hop schedule, and then the yeast they use, like their house yeast. because again, uh, the breweries all tend to have. This is me assuming. I don't know. Like I don't have any kind of insider information, but it's all basically like Cal Ale yeast, kind of in that same vein, where it's like a super clean, low. Like it's not really fruity. It finishes pretty dry. It performs well, but they all tend to like. I don't know. I don't know how Beechwood operates, but I think Pizza Port probably banks their own yeast, and I'm pretty sure Russian River does too, and maybe Beechwood does too. But it's basically about recipe construction and fermentation, and that's where, like with the grill having been seasoned, I think how the beers ferment out and how they treat the beer post boil is what gives breweries their own unique fingerprint on a beer. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It seems like with beer, it tends to be more in the recipe and the technique as opposed to the equipment itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the equipment is that's like your baseline factor. Everyone has the same stuff. And, when it comes to Russian River, I think their stuff is definitely, I'm just,
man, Twitch is on one today.
What is going on? It just totally ruined my. How is it to the point with our show that we need a moderator in our fucking Twitch channel? Like, this is dumb.
It seems, it seems just it's very body. It's not like I don't think it's actual human being coming in.
No, it is, but still, it's something like that.
I mean, not really a human, but yeah.
Can you roll back?
I forgot what I was saying. I know I was talking about like yeast and stuff, and it just I lost it. So I'll find a spot to end it. Like, it doesn't matter.
I think if we were trying to pick which brewery's character we liked better, that's a real Sophie's choice. It's like, oh man. I
don't think I'm going for which character I like better. I'm going for which brewery would do the best job at combining all three breweries' interpretation of an IPA. And I think Russian River would do that. I don't know. And I think it's because I probably because I like their IPAs more than anybody else's IPAs. And I think you'd get that unique influence from Pizza Port and from Beechwood. They're all friends, and they all know how to make great IPA. And I think Russian River could just totally pull it off well. Not that the others couldn't, but I think it would just be awesome coming from Russian River.
And when the viable solution is that they brew one at each, and then you do them all horizontal.
There you go.
That's and we're going to get credit for bringing it together.
Yep. They're going to call it the Four Brewers Mega Collaboration West Coast Super Duper IPA.
It's a cartel of IPAs.
Trademark. All right. That's a good ending spot.
Oh, righty then.
And why are there Nazis? Like, what?
Some of this stuff is just hilarious if you read it.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I mean, it's hilarious. It's hilarious in how stupid it is. Sorry, I should probably clarify since this is out there. It's hilarious in how like dumb and ridiculous it is.
Anyway, that bums me out.
John, figure out how to make me a moderator on
Twitch?
my regular account. Yeah.
All right, I will.
And then I'll do that next time. That way I can just nail these fucks out.
All right, I ended.
Yeah, let's stop.
Yeah, I can stop recording.
With my nice gap in there. Sorry about that, guys.
Dude, no problem.
Okay, cool.
So I have a bunch of North Park beers, or if Greg is down, we can do NA beers next week.
Okay, next week I have to be on call on Saturday. And while that seems like it might fit perfectly with doing NA beer, I don't want to drink anything beer related while I'm on call because that just feels weird.
Do you want to do LaCroix show?
We could do it Sunday or
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, okay. Joe said he was available next weekend, so I'm going to hit Joe up. And if Greg, I want to do an NA beer show, but I want to do it, when I want to drink NA beer, and I don't
Well,
want to do it next
so
Saturday.
I can make everybody a 4-beer care package of North Park and drive it around.
Well, that's my point. Like, if we want to have Joe on, because he is available next weekend, as far as I know, then
he could probably just go pick them up from the brewery.
maybe, yeah.
Like he probably has that beer available locally where we don't. But I'll drive care packages around everybody if whenever we want to do it.
I'm down for that. And it'd be on Sunday, so.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
You good with Sunday, Tim?
Tentatively. I will let you know if anything changes.
Okay.
And I can coordinate, Jason. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'll figure out a reason to get fucking all the way on the other side of LA and then do that and also drop you off beer.
Kyle is asking what kind of beers are they, Jason?
Mostly hoppy beers, my friend.
Yeah, the black is beautiful too, right?
Yeah, I did. I stayed away from the hazies because it's me and I didn't feel like them. So I haven't exactly picked which ones we're gonna do on 4B. But
You posted the order in the general chat on Discord.
Yeah, I posted it in
right?
the Patreon chat or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
I did buy more beers, but there were crowlers and shit. They weren't really relevant to the show.
Damn, you bought a lot. Holy moly. You are set.
Yeah, it filled my whole outside fridge.
So while we're looking at this, let's see what do we like. Okay.
So Hop Foo is kind of their like flagship. I figured we got to do that one.
Yeah.
I was probably going to put together Hop Foo, the Strata Lager, Black is Beautiful, and then probably the Pilsner, just so we're not doing a bunch of IPA.
Sounds good.
Yeah, figured a good show.
Yep, I'm down for that.
Make you guys each a care pack, and I can just mix up all the 4-packs and bring everybody a mix pack.
That's very thoughtful of you.
And if anything, make one for Joe, and I'll ship it to Joe.
Okay.
When do you want to do this whole thing?
I mean, within the next couple weeks, ideally, so the beer doesn't get old. But
I could probably meet you at your place, pick up my beer, and if Joe's going to be on, pick up Joe's beers, and then you just have to get your beer to Tim because I'm out in San Bernardino next week, and I could stop by.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
So then you just have to deal with Tim.
Sorry.
Kyle wants us to do Modern Time show.
Didn't we do that already?
Yeah, we do nothing but Modern Time shows. Kyle just wants only Modern Time shows. We're going to come at you live from the 4B studio, which is
built into
at Leisure Town.
The submarine in the pool at Leisure Town.
We're fucking the Steve Zissou of the goddamn Modern Times pool, and we're out here drinking Orderville again.
Okay, so if North Park will be in a couple weeks, and John, you don't want to do NA this week.
North Park will be on Sunday if we do anything.
Wait.
Because Saturday I'm on call.
Hold on. Jason mentioned something about a couple weeks. Are we confused here?
Well, he's like, when do you want to do it? I was like, well,
okay.
The sooner the better.
It would be Sunday for North Park if we can pull it off, and then probably the following Saturday would be the NA beer shows.
Okay.
Or show.
Okay, that works.
Cool.
We give just Greg another week to chill.
And if Joe can't make it, then we'll just carry on.
Okay.
Anyway, with the North Park show on Sunday. So let's just plan for Sunday.
Okay. I'll let you know if anything comes up on my end. And Jason, we can coordinate and I'll keep track.
Yeah, like it'll give me if anything, we could do the El Segundo thing again, right?
Okay. Yeah, that was really handy if it works for you. I just don't want to make you do too much work.
Yeah, no, it's good. They have pretty good pizza too. So I did like El Segundo and LA Ale Works and ran home, and that was a pretty good run.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you want to do that, that's fine. That's a pretty quick trip for me, so I appreciate that.
All right, Tim.
Yeah, we'll coordinate.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Later, man.
See ya.
Cheese, bros.
Bye. Oh, God.